Game second, sorry.
Yeah, it was good, man. It was good.
How was the game? I was in. Obviously, you went to you actually went to it, right? So it was
That was it. Just courtesy of your season ticket, my friend.
yeah,
But it was good. It was nice. As in, again, springtime football.
yeah.
The evenings are a bit longer. You're not walking in the
I know. I
pitch
noticed that, right?
black.
They
You
were like
just
warming up, and it was still light outside. I was like,
It
oh,
is outside. No, it makes a massive difference, man. It's so nice. It's so nice. Even just like walking to the stadium and stuff, it just feels like, you're not like wearing 18 million layers. You know how I go basically. I'm dressed for the Arctic. Um, but yeah, I was only wearing the four, so it's clearly clearly
uh,
spring
clearly not
like outside.
clearly spring weather, isn't it? Exactly.
Yeah, man. But it was good, man. It was good. And now we're here, episode 5. Feed looking back on the Fulham game and then looking ahead to the Everton one with a bit of I think every single pod that we've more or less done
Mm,
so far, bar one, is looking a little bit ahead to that Real Madrid game as well, and that's coming
yeah,
closer and closer. So I feel like everything that we'll talk about today is about the ramifications and impact that will
yeah,
have on the
that's
on
it.
the on the Madrid game, man. But yeah, did you watch it from home as well, right?
Yeah, everything seems to. I mean, yeah, I
You what? Yeah, yes,
legally I did not watch it.
yes. Of course, you did not. You
Yeah,
did
yeah,
not
yeah.
watch it. You
Well,
listened to the radio,
I
imagined
watched
it.
I watched the full highlights after the game, which were on Sky Sports legally. That's what I did because
Fantastic.
I'm a
Yeah.
law-abiding I'm a law-abiding citizen, so that's what I did. Uh,
Because heaven forbid that you in the country that you where the game is taking place that you can actually watch it
yeah,
on television channels in here,
in
which
here with the subscription that I pay, hundreds of pounds for a month, and
on top of all the other subscriptions and
and also the
other shit
team
that
that
you got.
I pay a season ticket for, and also buy merchandise for, and thousands of pounds for. You'd be
That's it.
surprised. Like, I shouldn't even be expected to watch the game, right? I should just be
And
able to.
now you use your time for on a podcast to speak about too. So, I mean, I think
Uh,
you're all in.
Yeah, I watched it.
Um,
I did watch it. Yeah, I managed to catch it. It was my brother-in-law's birthday, so I was like in and out of it. So I didn't. I had to rewatch it to actually kind of like look at it properly and be able to talk about it because I was just kind of in and out really, and I just had a few opinions about a few things going on. But then I rewatched it and kind of changed a few opinions on how I felt. But yeah, it was I mean, a win. A win's a win.
win to win.
A win's a win.
Keep the pressure on
Single
pools.
digits. Single digits.
Um,
Single digits.
that's it. That's it. Well, which we said, the single digits it could, they could feel
You
it.
know what my toxic trait is? My
So,
toxic trait is every time we win a game is going to the Premier League.
you think you could do it? You think we could do it? And that's
I'm like,
why that's why.
so they only have to
Yeah.
lose 2 games and draw 3 games. Oh, okay, that's not too bad. Yeah,
Yeah, it's all of a sudden, and we just can go away and beat them at Anfield, which we said
yeah,
we think
it's
we can do
obviously gonna
anyway.
happen.
So it's
Yeah,
fine. Yeah, it's all doable.
obviously gonna happen, right? So yeah,
And I mean, I don't know. There's a narrative klaxon that needs to be sounded for Moyes coming back at Everton, finally getting a win over Liverpool. Final game at Goodison. Is it Goodison? No, Anfield.
no, it's at
Where is it?
Anfield today, but
Yeah, it's Anfield. The previous, yeah, exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, the
I mean,
rearranged game was it?
Everton are good, man. Like, and obviously this is Liverpool's first game since they kind of had that horror
Yeah,
week, isn't it? Since
exactly.
PSG and
Yeah,
Newcastle, so it'd be interesting for.
that's it.
If anything, I think actually that kind of international breaks come at a good time for them to just reset and reevaluate. But now all the trend stuff's come out, and we're getting all optimistic, and they'll obviously smack them like 6-0 today, and then they'll be back into.
That's the wrong attitude. That's the wrong attitude. They are. It's going to be scrappy. It's going to be horrible. And we're going to see Salah get a bit of a nick. And I don't know, bloody who's the guy who's playing up front for them who's scoring a bunch of goals? Beto. Is it Beto? Beto?
Yeah, yeah, he's doing well,
Yeah,
man.
he's doing all right actually, isn't he? So I can just see him kind of, ball deflecting off his arse
It'll
and
be a
going
hard
in.
game. It'll be a hard
A
game for
hundred
them.
percent.
Like, and then obviously
Yeah,
we're going away to to Goodison on
on
Saturday.
Saturday.
Is it Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday, 12:30.
Oh
Nice,
no,
nice, nice and fresh all the way up
ruin my
north. There's
weekend
nothing.
early, man. Ruin my
That's
weekend
it.
early.
Get it out of the way. Get it
Get out of the
done.
way, and then let me
Uh,
just get ready for Madrid, man. Ruin my weekend early. Good stuff.
but okay, yeah. I mean, so I was able to go to the game. And like I said to you, it was a lovely spring evening in North London. Cherry blossom was flying around in the wind. And yeah, everybody seemed in good mood as well. I think it was just nice to get
Warm as well, right? Like it wasn't even cold, like you mentioning, especially
As
like
in, yeah, it was just a bit windy, so you
my
got you go
it's
got a bit
my
chilly.
favorite like it's my favorite time in terms of British weather. Like I'm not a fan of British summer as much as like there's in terms of the heat. So like this where the sun's out, it's warm when you're in the sun, but there's a breeze and things like that. Like I love that stuff. Like that's my favorite type of weather. So
It's also ideal football playing weather if you think about it. It is perfect temperature and everything. And
yeah.
yeah, so yeah, atmosphere felt good. Like I think people just missed being back at the ground and watching. I think when we went on that run, sort of January, February, when we played like five uh,
Mm.
home games in a row or something, it was like okay, everybody needed a bit of space. There was a lot of mixed results anyway. But this
I kind of
felt
felt like
like
it's I don't know if you felt like this. I kind of felt like yesterday was like the start of a new season, weirdly. I don't know why. I just felt like
you
it was
know
a new
what?
vibe. Yeah, I don't know why, man.
You've done you actually I've been thinking about it all day, which is like yeah, like why did I just felt yeah, it felt I had optimism and hope, and I think there's one main reason which was why that was, and that was because of Bukayo Saka coming back, man. Like that is that you could sense and feel the optimism and the happiness and just the fact that the guy who's literally been the difference maker for the last 2 3 seasons for us is back, and yeah, so how are you feeling about him, Arteta saying he's ready to go? Were you thinking that you wanted him to get on the pitch and get some minutes? I know there was some commentary out there that was saying, oh, protect him for another game. Why risk him back so
Yeah,
quickly?
I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. What were you
the
thinking?
thing is, like, obviously, we've experienced a lot of muscular injuries ourselves, right? And I think when you think about kind of the protocol when it comes to kind of return to play in terms of what they expect from you before you come back from a muscular injury, I think as long as he's met those milestones and he's achieved what he needs to achieve previous to the game, so like he's done the strength work, he's done the mobility work, he's been on the training pitch, he's played a behind doors game, he's done the kind of things at the intensity that you would hopefully, I mean maybe just about maybe the intensity of what you'd expect from a Premier League football game. I don't see any reason why not. Like I mean he has to play eventually, right?
Yeah.
Like you can't just keep wrapping him in cotton wool and is we want him to play because he's a difference maker. And I don't think he's been rushed back. I mean, basically 4 months from tearing your hamstring surgery is pretty much when you expect to be back anyway. So yeah, I mean, I was excited, and I didn't expect it. There were some rumors that he was going to start. I didn't expect that because
No,
Arteta
no way.
like he doesn't do that. Like he doesn't just throw people in like that. Like and as much as people want to and I'm sure we'll have a conversation about the whole injuries thing because we've got like a fresh host of a basket full of those from this game, which is lovely. I don't think he does that. So yeah, I was expecting him to get a few minutes, and it was obviously we'll talk about how cool that was. So but yeah, but what did you think about the starting lineup? Did you expect any changes? Obviously, we're coming off an international break. Few players had got a bit of a rest, namely, think people like Gabriel. He didn't play the second game in against Argentina because he was booked and he was suspended, so he came back a bit early. Saliba played pretty much the whole international break. Timber didn't play. I don't think. I don't remember watching him play. Obviously Martinelli. I don't think he was in this. Was he in the squad? I don't know. I think he. I don't
I'm
think
not
he
even
was.
sure he was. No, I don't even think it was called
But
up.
yeah, so people played, people didn't play, people had a bit, played a bit, played a little bit. What did you feel about the starting lineup? Would you have changed anything?
No, nothing really. I think, obviously there's a few players that you mentioned there that got a lot of minutes. Unsurprisingly, even like Lewis Skelly, Rice, Saliba, as you mentioned, but a lot didn't, and that meant that I think they had that sort of time to kind of recuperate. I think the Gabriel one feels a bit ironic now in hindsight, but yeah, as does Timber, to be fair. But I think considering the amount of games we have left and what's at stake, namely the Champions League, it meant that yeah, you just got to go for it. You put your best team out. Obviously, none of us are, let's say, logically expecting Liverpool to slip up, but you gotta at least give them something to think about. So, and against a Fulham side that have done really well against us in a lot of games, and I think Marco Silva has, found Arteta out in a few instances. Even though we may have dominated games and stuff, I think they're a very, very efficient side. With quality strikers like Raul Jimenez and obviously Rodrigo Muniz who came on and made a difference. And they can be dangerous on the break and stuff. So although comically the most dangerous person that they had on the break was Adama Traore, and he came cannonballing and down, and he managed to shoot, and it went out for a throw-in. So it kind of summed up most of certainly their first half when we were very dominant. And I think the team he put the best team out that he could really, and really wanted to make sure that he put a stamp on the game and try and get it won as early as possible. So yeah, I think we were good value for that, with considering the lineup. Um, and also with the amount of injuries that we have still, like you look at Calafiori now being out and things, I just don't, he doesn't even necessarily have the luxury of being able to give, for instance, Lewis Skelly, for example, like a rest now. So yeah, it's one of them. It's one of them.
I was just gonna say, like, do you feel, let's say, like, in a magic world where nothing ever goes wrong, if Saka is obviously fit and we don't have the injuries that we maybe have now, do you think that's probably, if, let's say you substitute Saka in for Nwaneri maybe, and then do you think that's probably the starting lineup he would have gone with for Real Madrid?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think there's anything else that he could possibly do. You know, I mean, we can figure out what order we want to like kind of chat through the individual performances and stuff.
Yeah, I think
But
we, yeah, I think we should do that.
yeah, definitely.
I think there were some good ones. I think there were some.
Oh, excellent ones. I mean, and I think whilst we will get on to talk about Saka and stuff, but Martinelli, after all that we gave him the
Yeah,
previous week in terms of even just saying, oh, I'd sell him, he
but this is it.
which
We need more performances like that, right? Not one
hun
every 7, 12, 15 games. I want
yeah.
doing that every single game. And what I will say, just a quick caveat to it is, I think it was a good performance. I think the only reason why people think it's a great performance is because he's been so bad for so long.
Yeah,
It,
your baseline has changed,
that's
right?
it.
And what you expect from him. But again, that's you're only looking at you can only then judge him off of his recent performances, and you can only take hope in the fact that he was significantly better than what we've seen him in many, many weeks, even months, I would say. Like there was a directness to his play, a sort of fearlessness to taking on arguably a not a very good defensive right back in Timothy Castagna. I remember when we were linked with him for a little while,
Yeah,
because
yeah.
people were, but God, he can't defend. And I mean, if you can't defend against Martinelli, you must be a pretty bad defender.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
Martinelli. What I will say about Martinelli is, I think he finally kind of uh, got rid of the kind of issue where he doesn't want to kind of go through the player. You know,
exactly.
and that's only
Yes.
because I think
Yeah.
Castagna was doing that thing where he was just sitting off him, and I think
Yeah.
other defenders haven't given Martinelli that kind of luxury, and they've kind of pressed him into an area where they're like, well, if you're not going to nick it past me and dive through me straight line,
Mhm.
you're going to have to go around me, and his ability to kind of maneuver around people isn't as fluid as the point where he can maybe jig past someone, if that makes sense. If you kind of, you know what I mean.
Yes.
So I
Yeah.
think
The
when
sort of the drop of the shoulder kind of thing and just get around them.
that's it. If you give him that space, he'll take the space. But if you take away the space, I think he finds it a bit more difficult. So I think that's an issue for Castagna, right? Like I think he just I gave him an extra
Yeah,
yard.
and no one was really helping him out either in terms of, doubling up on and again, I think that's the trick to what Arteta wants to do, right? If you're going to focus, which we've seen in recent weeks, a lot of teams have been doubling, tripling up on Waneri. That has left the left side very open, but none of the players who played Trossard namely, but then even Martinelli in the few instances. He's mainly played at right wing actually since he's come back, give or take, but they haven't really gone at their defenders, where there is a lot of space. And so, yeah, I think his performance was it's really positive because you want him to play himself back into form ahead of a really, really big game next Tuesday. And yeah, and I'm glad at least that we've got a few positives to sort of speak about in terms of in terms of individual performances. Marino again as well, like as much as we would want to say that, okay, he's still not the best number eight and he's not the solution, the long-term solution for that position, but he has scored what is it like
Yeah,
5 and 10
9,
games?
something like that, yeah.
Five
So
and nine and something like that in the Premier League, and he scores the first goal as well, which is pretty
yeah,
crucial if you think
gains my,
about it.
what I'll say is that he's gained a lot more of my respect for and again, this is more on me because obviously, like I'm quite harsh on players, like personally, like I'm that's just who I am. Like I'm very critical of people who I think should be performing better. He's gained a lot of respect from me that he's playing a role that he's not used to, that he wasn't signed for, that he wasn't expecting to play,
Yeah.
and he's doing his best, man. Like he's trying hard. Obviously, I get upset with him at certain points when he's maybe in midfield and he's not doing the midfield things well. So there was a moment where like we had the ball, he was played into him, we broke away, and all he had to do was play it to Saka, and then he could have made a darting run. But he
Yeah.
held on too long, he got fouled, and I was like, just release it, like just release. So those moments, yeah, I can get frustrated, but from a attacking perspective, like I don't know why, like whenever he scores, I just start laughing. Like I don't know if it's not to be harsh, it's just really funny. Like the way that goal went out, like the way that goal went in was just it just made me laugh. Like it
We
was
were
just
so confused. We didn't. There was like a delay in our celebration as well because I don't think any of us. Big shout out to Pete, who's sitting next to you in your season ticket seat. Um, we kind of looked at each other and we were like, "Wait, what? How did that go in?" Um,
it was the other side, right? It's
it was
each
the
other.
other side as well, so we had also like a terrible view of it as well in theory. And it sort of like it kind of like P rolled in past Leno, and we again obviously we celebrated just as hard. And it was a period of the game where we sort of flattered to deceive, though, in a lot of instances. And again, as some of the aspects of the most well, let's say the most frustrating elements of Arsenal's football, were a little bit on display again for the first 30 minutes because there was this sort of numerous occasions where there was a ball on and you needed a little bit more bravery to make that pass. Like even I remember seeing Rice getting super frustrated with Saliba and then with Raya for just not playing it fast enough and keep continuously going back, playing the short passes rather than actually being a little bit more expansive with your passing. But equally, it was where I was getting the most annoyed when we were kept on passing it backwards and backwards and backwards. That then that sort of sequence of I don't know how many passes it was, but I felt like it was over 20 at the very least, and more or less every player in the team had touched the ball for the first goal. Then Partey gets a little bit of space, who, by the way, also had a pretty okay game, bar that dodgy header that he did. But I
Yeah.
think it was
Oh
one of
yeah.
his
Well,
better
I
games.
don't know what,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know what he was thinking doing that, but
But he then opened up the space. Timber attacked the space that was left open, and then that was the way in which we actually got into a good goal scoring position. So there's an argument to say, can you basically bore teams into submission with passing it around constantly, which is sort of the Guardiola tactic, or but I would like to see us try and mix it up a bit more. But and overall, yeah, I think we did enough, and I think the players who were on the pitch at that time really were able to more or less manage the game quite well without exerting too much energy.
yeah, it
But
seemed eventually, obviously, like, and I'm sure we'll talk more in detail about maybe like second half and things like that. It seemed generally like quite a comfortable performance. Maybe towards the end, we got a little bit. There was a few openings for them, which I was a bit like, you know what, they probably should have a
yeah,
goal by now. But it seemed okay. Obviously, just stepping back from that, I think before the goal, obviously, this when probably the the main point of the whole game really occurred, which is that our arguably best our player of the season is pulled up with a
which
hamstring injury, which
which
is
we're giving him the player of the season.
yeah, he's my player of the season definitely.
Yeah,
But
100%,
unless
100%.
Unless Saka goes on a crazy run and we win the league,
Wins the Champions League
yeah,
and the league. Yeah,
or
yeah.
we win the
I,
league.
I love that you're still saying the league. Yes.
It's on until it's not on.
So toxic, so toxic.
It's on until it's not on.
Um,
But yeah, like so. I've seen a few comments online about like, what did you expect? You've overplayed him and this and that, and like, what, this is always going to happen, and blah blah blah. And I mean, it's hard, man. I mean, like, it's difficult to say, like, yeah, okay. On one hand, in my opinion, is like, yeah, okay, you can over fatigue players, and maybe that leads to these problems, and you can get muscular injuries. And again, okay, it is a bit strange that we've had four hamstring injuries in the
hamstring
space of,
tears. Yeah.
yeah. Well,
I don't
fingers
know if
crossed.
it's a tear. Yeah, fingers crossed it's
Oh
not a tear. Please, please, please.
yeah.
Yeah,
Let's not do that. Let's hope it's a classic Arsene Wenger 21 day, yeah. 21 days,
yeah.
21 days. Like let's just hope it's that. But it's just, it's hard to kind of not look deeper into the fact that maybe we've got four hamstring injuries around about 4 months, right, in the squad. So maybe there's something going on there, or maybe it's just shitty luck, man. Maybe it's just really shitty luck, and it's just. I mean, the Havertz one, I think, is just he just killed himself by
It's
sprinting
over.
around every single game, and unfortunately, that just happens, and that probably was basically fatigue based. And I think Saka's one again was probably because he twinged it earlier in the season, and he just managing it, and it went. So yeah, maybe those ones you can say. Martinelli again is he's a, a sprinty, explosive player. And players like that are more prone to those injuries, you know. But also, people forget that there's also a genetic component to these things. And sometimes it's not any other reason other than you just got unlucky and you just pushed off in the wrong way, you know, and it just went in a situation.
As you as you
Go.
saw with yourself, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's
Well,
one of them.
mine was more like actually like, you know, there were things leading to me to understand why it happened, right? So like there was imbalances and issues around it. With Gabriel, obviously, I think the fact
You
that
don't know, right? I mean, he's played what? He's played already like 35 games already this season, plus
but what
internationals
your
and
best
stuff like
players
that.
do.
And
Like people are like, oh, you know, why does he play 90 minutes against this team and that team and this team? But listen, at the end of the day, like
no one ever changes their centre backs mid-game.
no one
Just
does that.
you
No
just
one
don't
does
do
that.
it. That's
Even
like
Van Dijk, after an ACL, basically plays fucking every game. So let's not do all that in it. Like
no, no, no.
I'm all for criticizing Arteta about overplaying players when it's valid. In this case, like I'm not gonna sit there and blame the guy because the guy was back from international duty early. I'm sure he wasn't doing anything vigorous in training. You know, he started the game absolutely fine. He felt okay. Apparently, from what Arteta said in the press conference,
He felt he felt of something earlier
yeah,
than
but
before it
that's on the player though. That's on
popped.
the player as well. There's responsibility
Yeah,
that
go down. Just say like that's
go
it.
down. So that's it. People like him, like me and like you, we want to play, right? And we want to in our minds believe that it's not an injury. I don't want to have an injury. I'm gonna just keep playing, keep playing. I'm gonna get through it, and when I get through it, then I'll manage it later. And it's the hardest thing in the world to just stop and just say no. Like
Yeah,
I've got pain. I'm coming off. Take me to the dressing room because they probably feel like they're letting the team down. But in
yeah.
reality, how much more let down do we feel now? Because you've done your hamstring and now you're not going to be available for the Madrid game. You
Well,
know, so
he's and not even us, right? He's let himself down on
yeah,
arguably the biggest game, more or less the biggest game
that's
of his
career.
career.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
And
So
so,
you know, like you know,
it's
just future like, and I said this. One of my friends was talking to me today, and he was talking about he's had a knee problem for a while, right? And I just happened to message him and say, "How's it going? Like, how's your knee feeling?" He sent me the MRI report of his knee, and it was talking about how he's got like maybe a possible partial tear of his ACL, mainly meniscus is quite thickened, etc. And he was like, "Oh, I'm thinking about playing football tomorrow." And I just said to him, "Listen, man, like,
man, don't
if I
do
can give
that.
you, yeah, if I can give you, it's been 2 months basically since he got that report, right?"
Yeah.
And I just said to him, "Listen, man, just don't, bro. Like, just go to physio, get it sorted, get strong, get rehabilitated. Because, yeah, you might miss another month, but it's better than doing your ACL, getting injured. And it's the same thing goes for any of these players. If you're feeling pain,
You gotta
tell them.
listen to your body, right? You gotta
Like,
listen to your body. Yeah.
I read a really, really, really good, interesting report actually. Emma Hayes, she
Mm.
Chelsea. She's a great manager, obviously, fantastic manager. She is, you know, she's won a lot, very successful, and very, very smart, very tactically astute. And in this document, she was saying that that injuries are the fault of the coaching staff. And the reason for that is because if they do not create an environment where they feel that the players are comfortable to tell them that they're in pain, then that's on them, you know?
Mm. This whole
And
sort of you need to play through the pain, which I think in a lot of examples in terms of a lot of the injuries that okay, just going back, and I'm keen to hear about the thing, but the report. But what's interesting is that if you look back at sort of Arteta's, let's say, main players that he's played over, especially these 2, 3 seasons where we've been really good, there has been a core of players who played practically every game, and those are the ones this season that have all completely broken down. Um, and so it's a balance, isn't I think to your point, do you feel like maybe Arteta is creating a bit of an environment? Because he even said it himself, right? Messi plays 70, 80 games a season. So Saka, you need to be able to do the same if you want to be world class as well. So you got to play through the pain. And similarly, maybe Gabriel was
yeah,
in the same position. Ben White was in the same position.
well, it's
And you
a lot
know,
of managers feel this way, right? So, for example, I'll take you back to a time where Daniel Sturridge was playing for Liverpool still.
yeah,
I think he had a foot injury and he just didn't feel right. And Jurgen Klopp basically said in an interview, in a press conference, sometimes players kind of imagine the pain. I'm paraphrasing, so if I'm wrong,
No,
like
I remember the press conference though,
yeah,
yeah, and that
basically
was
the
quite
point.
controversial. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. The point being, sometimes the players are kind of letting the pain overcome them too much, and they need to just push through it. And in certain aspects, I do agree with that in terms of certain things, right? So if there's like, sore areas in terms of not muscular things really, but like, painful areas in your foot and things like that, you sometimes you
inflammation which
yeah,
can
you
build
kind
up
of
and
need to
happen at
push
any
through some of those
time. Yeah,
things and then get used to it
yeah,
because you need to load that area.
yeah.
It gets a bit sore, but then you think, but managers create a kind of environment naturally because that is their job, right? It's their job to do that. They need to get the most that they can out of those players, right?
It's a results-based
Yeah,
business,
yeah.
right? So you need
Whereas
your
when
best players available as
yeah.
for as long as possible, right?
Whereas you look at a manager maybe like in the maybe more mid Wenger years, where he was very much a player kind of like advocate for kind of player safety and not overdoing it. And obviously we all heard about the red zone, right? Why is the player not playing? Oh, he's in the red zone, he's not playing because we don't want him to do this and do that. And it's the question you ask about Arteta is maybe he is creating a little bit of a culture that the players feel like they kind of push through it. Not in a bad way. I just think that they're so invested in the project and they're so
Yeah, of course.
ready to fight for each other and get hurt for each other that they're like, you know what, I will do it. I can, and it's okay to sometimes do that, but sometimes you need to step back and hindsight's 2020. We all know this, right?
Always.
And look back and say, well, okay, I might lose you for a game, 2 games, 3 games, but at least I won't lose you for 4 months.
And that in of itself is sort of where you, to your point, right? You're really looking at the coaching staff to be able to have that two-way conversation with the players and be very like analytical about it as
Yeah,
well and say, you know, our season's been ruined by injury. There's
yeah,
there's there's
yeah,
no there's no sort of other way of putting it.
yeah.
We have a season where we should have won the league comfortably. City have completely fallen off. We are definitely better at full strength than Liverpool. And yet, we find ourselves 9 points behind them, or they've got a game in hand, and we've been knocked out of both domestic competitions
Yeah.
by lesser opponents as well in theory, and that's because we've been down to the bare bones. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
uh,
to a certain
you
extent,
know,
yeah, to a certain extent. Like, I mean, I'll make a little bit of an argument about that. That I don't think our starting 11 is good enough anyway. But regardless of that, yeah, you're correct. Like, I
but
mean, in
would you not say our starting 11 is still better than our main starting 11 is still probably better than every other starting 11 in the league, more or less?
see the thing with me is that like I don't
You
want
can
to.
talk about starting 11s and you can talk about like
Yeah,
Clive
yeah.
and it's a
But what
squad
I'll
and all
say
this
is
kind of stuff. Like,
I don't want
yeah,
to disrespect Liverpool, even though they've had one bad week in the whole season. Yeah,
true, true,
I
true.
don't want to disrespect that team because they're still very very good. Do I think that we were better than them when we played them at the Emirates? Hell yeah, I do. And that wasn't even a full strength squad for us. But that doesn't mean anything because Newcastle were better than us 3 games this season, right? And that I
Yeah.
don't think that they're better than us. So it's just different play styles. But yeah, second best, second or best in starting 11, regardless. But yeah, I do. Going back to the kind of question you asked, is that yeah, I do think that maybe there needs to be a bit more of a frank conversation at the end of the season when they do their natural season review and they look back on these things, and I'm sure they're going through them, of maybe we've created a bit of a culture here where players don't feel comfortable enough to tell us, or they're too hell bent on playing and hiding things. They're hiding injuries, right?
Yeah.
Gabriel could have felt that when he came out from Brazil in training, but he might not
7
say
weeks
anything.
ago. Yeah,
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 he might
yeah.
not say anything. So, and this is the thing, and I think players lie and players want to play. Play if you talk, if you try and sit down players, they don't like it. A lot of players don't like it. They want to play. They'll tell the manager, "No, I'm ready. I want to play." It's the job of the manager to say, "Relax, sit down, rest, and chill." But also, not don't rest too much, right? Because we know that there's the balance between it. Because there's resting
Yeah,
too much.
you need to have game time in your legs, right, in order to
That's
feel
it.
sharp and feel,
And
you're on it.
that's the intensity that we play at. Because again,
Precisely.
there's a wider conversation to be had about the play style that we have and the high turnover, the amount of high turnovers we cause to other teams because we press them so high and we run so much and we really intensely do it, and our wingers are back with the fullback. So it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a very intense way of playing football, and it creates again like fatigue on those players, and you
Yeah.
have to be able and willing to use more of your squad, which I'm sure he would have done if not the injuries to these players. Because whenever we have a player who's not available, the other player is not fit. So
And I think that in of itself, right? So you got to look at also some of the signings that we've made in recent history. Like Tomiyasu didn't come to Arsenal with the best injury record,
yeah,
and unsurprisingly, he's been injured constantly, and he's not even expected back until
yeah, and it's very
2026.
sad. It's a very sad one,
No,
right?
it's not a horrible position, but you're looking at
Yeah,
recruitment here a little bit and saying, well,
but I mean, they do
Calafiori's
medicals
also.
though. But they do medicals though. Like they
Yeah,
do.
no, no, they do. Of course they do. Of course they do. But someone somewhere must be looking at it. Even Calafiori as an example, right?
Yeah, his is different. Yeah,
Yeah, but career more or less almost close to being a career-ending ACL
yeah,
at a very young age.
yeah.
And other than last season, he's never really been able to pull a string of games together. Now, you could be taking a punt on it and saying that, well, if he might be over the hill on that, and his body might be stronger now, and it might not necessarily break down
Yeah,
in the
he's only
same
like
way that it has.
22, right? He's like 22 years old. Like he's got he's got so much time to build the strength, build the mobility in the right area. It's his first season. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. But Tomiyasu's one again. It's very sad. Like I mean, from a fan perspective, we're on one side and we're frustrated because he's not available. But from an individual perspective,
Oh no,
someone
it's
who
horrible for him.
had
Yeah,
knee
yeah,
injuries and me who's had ankle injuries and now I've done my Achilles. Injuries are the fucking worst thing for any athlete, man. They fucking suck. And any true athlete, any true, whether you're amateur, semi-professional, professional, any true athlete never ever wishes injury upon another athlete because they understand what it does and
yeah,
how
100%.
shit it feels. I think every real kind of honest athlete only wants everyone to always be at full health, because that's when you can compete at your best and you measure yourself. Nobody ever wishes injury on people. No, I'm sure there's players out there maybe who, besides a few, no one ever goes out to cause injuries. So when you see someone like Tomiyasu, you just think, man, I just feel so sorry for you, man, because you're just trying to do the thing you love and do your job that you get paid for, and you probably feel so shit. And then you've got fans on the other side on social media kind of like blaming him for something that's not his fault, you know?
Oh, Zen, again, I'm not. I don't think it's a
Yeah.
case of. I don't think it's a case of blaming him necessarily. I think going back to your point where you mentioned that, does Arteta, you know, the reality is that when Arteta has had to look at a squad for solutions, the personnel that we have signed subsequently have had bad injury records. Jesus, Zinchenko, Tomiyasu. Again, you can, even though whatever benefit of doubt you want to give to Calafiori, there's just the reality is he's had injuries.
Sorry, bro.
Um,
Sorry, I need to go pick up Sim from the station. Is it all right if we pause this and I come back in the next 10 minutes and we finish it up? Is that all right?
just
Yeah,
it.
I'll just
Cool,
pause
cool,
it.
cool, cool. Yeah, really. So yeah, as I was saying, I think there's squad players and stuff who can, continuously remain injured, and then you're sort of asking yourself the question as well is, I think what's made Guardiola and Man City so successful has been his, okay, yes, have they broken loads of rules in order to be able to sign the best squad that's practically ever existed? Yes. Um, and that they have been able to manage, you can have a like for like replacement of every single one of your players, other than like De Bruyne and probably Haaland, who they continuously have needed, and you could argue the same for Rodri, and that's how much they've fallen off this season as a result of not having him. But even if you look at the extremities of the team, let alone leaving the spine alone for a second, they've always been able to have that rotation because it's equal parts of faith that's shown from the manager, but also the kind of players and personnel that they've been able to sign, and you can reliably bring them on knowing that they are, you know, strong enough
Yeah,
and have the
maintaining
quality.
the level, right? So that the
Maintaining the level,
yeah,
precisely,
so that
exactly,
the
exactly.
superstar players can still make the difference, if that makes sense, innit?
De Bruyne can basically not play for like I
Half
don't
a
know
season. Yeah.
half a season, then he'll turn up and he'll just then decide that
And
he'll
they'll
want to
still
switch
be
it on for
there,
the
right?
last
As in,
10,
like
15 games. Absolutely,
they'll still be in that
exactly,
conversation, and then he comes back,
absolutely,
and that's what happened to us when we were in the
and
title.
that's yeah, that's the
Came back and
difference
was like,
maker,
cool,
right?
like, and it's how many times has it happened to Liverpool where he comes back and he's just like, cool, I'm just gonna just kill it now, and then we're gonna go on like a 15, 16 game winning run, like, So even there was Haaland was injured initially for our season, I think it was like the season we were battling with them, and then he came back in like December, and then he just played every fucking game until I think,
Yeah,
and yeah, it's a lot of it's luck as well, isn't it? A lot of it's luck as well, because then I think moves on nicely to talking about Timber, and he limped a bit off. I think at 2-0, not limped off, but he went off a bit.
Well, he was already limping
Mm.
at, I think even before 1-0
No,
even
yeah, yeah, yeah.
potentially. Yeah, before one
He
0
felt something, and like it's the upsetting thing whenever I see it. I hate seeing players like sit down when they sit down and they need treatment, yeah, and they just sit there.
It's
I'm
just
like,
so it's just yeah.
it's soul destroying because I'm like, fuck,
It's
man, like I don't need this right now. Like I don't
I
need.
just don't need
I
this
don't
right
need
now.
this right
Yeah,
now.
yeah,
Like,
I
I don't
don't.
need to see you, who's had a previous like we lost the whole season. We lost the whole season already to your knee injury. Also now sitting down hurt with your holding your knee because we know with ACLs and stuff and like meniscus stuff, it's not like a bang usually. It's like,
No.
oh, I can feel something's not right. And then you do a fucking scan and it's like, yeah, you fucking torn your ACL. And you're like, fuck, man, like, don't do this to us. Like, just don't do this to us, please. I just get so like heart in mouth every time I see the guy go down. And then he carries on playing
Um,
and I get PTSD.
well, we were texting each other in the middle of the game, weren't we?
Mm.
Which is like, why? Just take him off,
Just go
man.
off,
Like,
yeah.
you've got so many other bigger fish to fry, and
Yeah.
Partey can probably do a job there, and
Yeah.
he
Who cares if
sort of
we
did
don't win this
anyway
game?
towards the end of the
Who
game.
really cares if we don't win this game? If like I don't want to put the player, the welfare, or our next season in jeopardy, right? Like our next season in jeopardy by having injuries like this. Like if Gabriel goes and God forbid blows his hamstring, yeah, that's 4 months, right? That's 4 months.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
that's September.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
No, not even
August. It's
August.
August.
August-ish.
Yeah.
Yes, you would
But,
say.
but then
Yeah.
again,
Yeah.
you're carrying it over to next season. You don't get pre-season then, you don't get to be there. Julian Timber, if you have a problem, you're starting to now get into the period of the season where if stuff happens now, there's an issue there where you're not available for next season then.
You saw it. You saw it with Marino's adaptation period as well, right? He got injured as soon as he turned up, and he missed that sort of a crucial bit of preseason in order to get up to speed.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah,
they do something in the NBA, right? Which is quite interesting.
mm,
That if a team who's not in the playoff hunt or doesn't feel like they're going to do anything really like in that season, if they
okay.
have a big asset, so for example, let's use the example of Anthony Davis. So if anyone who watches
Mm,
NBA, Anthony Davis with this season was traded in a large trade to the Dallas Mavericks.
Alice. Yeah.
Yeah, Doncic went the other way. So now Anthony Davis went there. He very early on got like a groin injury. I think he just kind of non-contact groin injury, which isn't great. Then unfortunately, Kyrie Irving did his ACL. So that was basically that hope that they were maybe going to do something in the postseason kind of went with that. And in doing
Mm.
that, they basically said, you know what, we're just going to, I might be wrong because he might be playing now, but I doubt it. From what reports I heard is that we're just going to sit Anthony Davis for the rest of the season. So he's just not going to play now for the rest of it. Because there's only like, I don't know, like 12, 13 games left, 14 games.
Not worth it.
Yeah. It's not worth it because he's our asset now. He's our asset. So we need to make sure that he's available next season. So sometimes I think maybe football needs to adopt that kind of we're sitting our biggest assets now until the end of next season. So for example, like if we were out of the Champions League and we weren't in the league, we were title race, which we're pretty much not, I would very much look at not playing Bukayo Saka that much into the end of the season. I would say I just want to get you building up. I would get you building up. But even like, for example, anyone who's coming back from injury, Calafiori, I would sit him. I'd say just sit the rest of the season, just chill. But I feel like in football we don't do that. They just when they're ready they play, and that's the
Yeah.
thing. And there's so much. And we talk about players talk about the load on them, the games that they're playing every season, right? It's becoming more and more prominent. So we need to start thinking about like, do we start adopting this NBA style, NFL style, American style? We need to remember these are assets. These players are not just players; they're assets. We pay them a lot of money. We pay a lot of money for them, and we have a lot riding on their health. So we need to start thinking about sitting them for periods of the season where if we're not involved in anything and the stakes aren't that high, they don't need to be playing a fucking League Cup game against Preston. They don't need to be playing an FA Cup third round game against Man United. They don't need to be playing 90 minutes when you're 7-1 up against PSV. I know you want to tune them up, and you want to keep them fit, but go in the fucking hyperbaric chamber, man. Go get fucking red light therapy. Go put your feet up, just chill. Have
Yeah.
training sessions.
Yeah. I think you're spot on there, and the biggest. So whilst yes, you need massive squads, right? But the level of investment that's required now in order to get to that standard, like I was saying earlier a little bit about those Man City, the Man City way or model of just essentially having, and even Liverpool squad to an extent has Simicast can deputise pretty well for Robertson, and you've got
Bradley on the outside.
Yeah, exactly. Conor Bradley on the other side
He's
for
injured. He's injured.
he's yeah, exactly. But again, he's not the same quality as Trent, and he offers a very different thing. But needless to say,
Yeah,
you've got that
and he
depth in the
played and he
squad. But
played a good amount of games when Trent was not.
yeah, exactly. And did anybody notice a massive drop
He
off
was great. He was
In
great
Liverpool's
against Real
ability?
Madrid.
Yeah,
That's against Real
he
Madrid. He was
was.
man of the match.
Yeah, he was. And so
And then they've got
it's
Joe
it's
Gomez, they've got Kwanzaa, they've got
yeah.
Shaw, they've got Konate. Like they've got guys who are available when they need to be.
And even Konate's had periods of the season where he was out as well, and then they had Joe Gomez and Quansah and stuff who could deputise for them just as well. And so I think it's interesting, and it's an interesting prospect that you bring up, which is that do clubs think about their players? I'm sure they do think about them as assets, right? You even
But
look at the
maybe
way
not
that
as much. But maybe not as much
not to the
as
same
right?
extent, yeah. And maybe that's a cultural thing as well. I don't know, like this whole as you were saying as well, like it's just necessary. And ever since we've been kids, right? You've always been taught you play, you get hit, you get or something, you like you just get up, shake it
You have
off
to
and
shake
keep
up and
going,
play, yeah.
right?
Because
Yeah, yeah, always.
it's this British culture, right? Of like, oh yeah,
Yes.
you should expect to get hurt and you should expect to play through pain. And
Yeah,
it's like, you know what?
precisely.
Again, players are screaming out to you and they're begging for help. They don't want to hurt themselves. They don't want to, like, for footballers, like a lot of their careers end in about, I don't know, 35,
34,
yeah?
35,
35,
yeah, yeah,
yeah?
yeah.
Who wants to be crocked at 35, man? Like, I remember my dad basically from playing football from the age of about 15 till probably in his basically like his just early 30s. And then from his 30s to his 50s, he's dragging his left leg around like a peg leg because he can't bend it because of all the knee surgeries he's had.
Well, a lot of players from sort of the 70s, 80s, etc., where okay, football, and even the 90s, whatever, where football was way, even more rough than what it is
Yeah.
now. Um, so many of them are complaining that their bodies just have never been the same. Even players like, Steven Gerrard and stuff have said, my knees are just finished. Like
Yeah, and
I just
we get
I
it, right?
can't.
And people,
Yeah.
and you get you'll get the kind of the other people on the other side of football saying, "Oh, you get paid millions and millions." So listen, what does that matter? What does that matter? We're talking about human beings here. We're talking about their health, yeah. And again, speaking from someone right now who only just about is able to now hobble around and walk on 2 feet and carry things in hands, you cannot you will not trade your mobility for any amount of money in the world. You know?
Once you've gone through a sustained period without
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
and the level of, and the fact it's just your independence at the
Yeah,
end of the day,
exactly.
right?
Like
And
these
so
guys want to run around with their kids. They want to go to the beach. They want to like experience these things. They want to play football with their children. They want to live life and go and travel and do these things. And if they,
and the majority of whatever's left of your life as well,
yeah,
right? It's you're expected to live at
yeah,
least now until like
you're not 70 having this problem, right? After your career, you're
exactly,
35,
exactly.
which is when
Yeah,
most people's
yeah,
careers
yeah,
barely
yeah,
start, like half the time, right? You kind of only really
yeah.
get into your real working life if you kind of in your 30s, right? So I just think that we need to I personally, maybe I'll be calling a fucking football apologist, yeah, but I think we need to have a bit more sympathy for the athletes who are playing and just remember that they're not just our toys that we want to fucking use and abuse and then throw away. Like they're human beings. Their bodies mean something, and as much as it's for our entertainment and they get paid for it, and they get paid very well. It doesn't trade off the fact that these people are still human beings and they still deserve the care and the consideration of the people who pay them as well, right? They shouldn't feel forced to play through injuries and to play through pain. And there needs to be, I think, a general culture shift in football now to understand that they're playing too many games. They're getting, and because football's more intense, it's more intense than it was 10 years ago.
Oh, so from a physiological perspective and just sort of the level of athletes that these guys are, right? They can't even most of them like Declan Rice, for example, was saying, "I never drank never had alcohol in my life," kind of thing.
Yeah.
Okay, and they know that from a young age that if you're going to have a chance of being able to make it, you need to be in the most prime condition that you could possibly be
Yeah.
in and sustain it
Mm.
for a minimum of 15
Yeah,
years,
because we're talking top 0.5% of people who are at the sport, right? Like we're talking the elite of the elite.
Yeah, the elite of the elite, right? And so, and yet, even still, with all of the conditioning, all of the staff, the medical staff, etc., that you'll have on hand, you're still getting these situations where they are actually saying they're crying out for help. And so the big, I think you're right. Big cultural resets required in terms of the way in which fans, clubs think about their players. Um, I think the governing bodies who are just milking this cash cow, like I'm slightly going off tangent here, but I don't know there's people who like say, I never get sick of football. I can watch football all day, every single 365 days a year, right? But I I don't get a chance to miss it anymore.
Yeah, I mean, like
And
it was good this last couple of weeks, right? Like not having Premier League football because you're like, oh, I miss
and
it.
that's why,
Come back to
you
it.
know what I mean? It's like anything in life, right? You don't realize what you have until it's gone.
Yeah,
And that's important. And I think it's important that you get a bit of space from something, because if you don't, it almost becomes saturated. It
yeah.
becomes something that's so like just it's just there. It's easy to have.
Yeah.
And that human nature doesn't work like that,
Listen,
right? There's
so
always
this
that's
is the
always that
thing.
sense that,
So this is the thing
yeah,
with like
right.
NFL, right? So NFL is on from September pretty much till February, and then there's nothing until September again. So when it comes back, you're ready, man. It's one game a week. You're really locked in. It's 15 game weeks, playoffs. You're there. NBA, okay, 82 game season, a lot of games, playoffs, a lot of games, yeah. But then you have that break. There's no basketball really, unless there's Olympics as well.
There's no basketball World Cup unless in
Yeah,
an Olympic year,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
But it's not like a World Cup and then a
A
Euro,
Copa
like
America, and
a
then
Copa America version of
a
it
World
or
Cup,
whatever.
and then
Like,
this and an FA Cup and a domestic. It's just a lot, man. It's a lot, and like I think if this is what I'm scared,
and we're getting expanded competitions within the game season as
literally,
well, right?
literally,
So
exactly.
we have a second domestic cup competition in this country. On top of it, we didn't even have a winter break this year,
Yeah,
which we had done in previous years. A lot of the logic around that discussion was as well like, in order to help the England national team perform better at tournaments, is in
yeah.
fact if you give the players, they said, nah,
Doesn't
sod
mean
that,
I'm
we'd
so
rather
bad.
have
We
the
want the
money.
money. We want the money, right?
Yeah, we want the money, so no, we're gonna play in January, and that's also because of the Champions League and UEFA creating such an expanded format. And so, uh, yeah, and now we have the stupid FIFA World
Club World
Cup,
Cup, yeah. It's like I mean, like
Club World
one
Cup, like,
billion, $1 billion prize money, and it's like,
uh,
yeah, I get it, man. Because all you're doing is you're pushing it to the owners and the clubs commercially who want to win that money because it's gonna be this huge influx. But then the players are just like, wait, do we get any fucking choice for this? Like, do we get any hey? Like,
of
hello?
course not.
Like, do we get no? Like, and
No,
it's not. So like, there was what would it? We'll round it up in a second because obviously we will talk about the rest of the game, second half and stuff like that. But I just want to mention, so there was an interview with I think it was Axel Tunzebe, and he was talking about how nowadays you're doing almost 8, 9, 10 kilometers, and it's at like zone 5. You're like at zone 5 the entire time because they have these stat things on,
yes,
right?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And he's like,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
just it's just crazy. It's like you don't have a moment to breathe. Yeah, and we're talking about professional elite athletes here who are at the top VO2 max of probably anyone in the country, really. Yeah, other than we're talking about like long distance runners. And he's like, we're at zone 5 for 10 kilometers. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, man. How can you play and then recover? You cannot then be expected to then get up and train and then also do your mobility and then also then play again 3 days later and then also play again 3 days. What is that? What is that? What do you expect? People are going to break down, and that's what we're seeing. More injuries, more hamstrings. And what does it do? It just dilutes the quality of what we're watching, right? Because we want to see Bukayo Saka playing every game because that's
Yeah, you want to see the best footballers, and I think,
that's
and again, Arsenal, like, okay, let's say this was a normal season and whatever. When we were talking about it last year, and Rodri was out for another period, and we played them at home, and we beat them. A lot of us were saying, well, you know what, I'd have loved to beat City with Rodri in their
mm-hmm.
team,
Mm-hmm.
because that means more, right?
It
When you're
does.
playing against the players who, like, are the best of the best. There's there's a bunch of other arguments, and I go, it's easy for us in our ivory tower to have this conversation because we support one of the biggest clubs in the country.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of other people, and that's a great thing about English football, is that people support their local teams as well, and that's in. But again, and then they're not playing as many games in theory or comparatively, but there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
And you know what? I just want to have a summer where I can just sit there and just watch cricket, and
Yeah.
there's nothing else for me to
Yeah.
watch
Yeah.
because I miss that. I just miss being able. I'm gonna watch another
And then
sport.
just
I'm gonna watch golf.
yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
then
watch cricket.
just get excited
Like,
like that. It's oh my god, it's Charity Shield next week. Oh, I can't wait. Like oh,
yeah, exactly.
can't wait.
Yeah, yeah.
We used to
I
get
don't even
excited.
feel like,
Do you remember we used to get so
yeah.
excited? Like even if we weren't playing, even I remember that one season. It was Man United, Man City, and it was a Community Shield, and it was a great game. I think Man United won 3-2 in the end when they were 2-0 down.
Yeah.
And leading up to it, even though my team's not playing, I'm just excited because I know that the weekend after is Premier
It's
League.
the curtain raiser, right? And
Yeah.
that's
So
and that's it. And Yeah. And again,
Watch
like
fucking sports all fucking day, all time. Like football's on constantly. You're right. It just gets a bit diluted, and I'll be honest with you, like less and less now. I mean, I used to actually enjoy watching the games that, like, the mid-table games on a Saturday.
I would watch them, and now I
Not
don't.
like
Okay, fair enough. We also have different like life. We're at a different life stage where we don't even necessarily have the time. But I felt like, but honestly,
sorry.
I actually I do have moments. Oh, is
I was gonna
the
just freeze it a little bit. I just wait for it to come back, to, then just in case it
is
messes
that
up.
normal?
Try now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good.
Uh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm a bit off.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's it's it is like you just I sit there, I've got, Sky Sports,
Mm.
and I could totally sit there and watch a game. Like I actually have the time in
Yeah.
the evenings or whatever to put on a game. I'm just like, you know what?
I'm watching enough football.
I'm just
Watching enough football.
and again, it's not to say I don't love the game. Like you just we're all just as passionate as the next person, but
Yeah.
it's just too much.
This is
And
too much.
we used to watch like La
La
Liga,
Liga.
Serie
You
A,
basically
you
go
know what I
Saturday
mean?
night. Oh, it's Real Madrid playing Sunday night. Barcelona playing.
Like
Um,
even our Classico and stuff, like you would make the time because you're like, yeah,
Nowadays, the Classico like 6 times a season. I'm just like, oh, fucking hell, man. Like, I don't even care anymore.
because they're playing 18 different competitions against each
Yeah.
other as well. So you just take away the sort of, again, when it's just two times in a year, it means so
Yeah.
much more.
You sat down. You made sure you had a seat and you were watching.
Yeah,
But let's
yeah.
move on to the second half.
Anyway, second half,
Yeah.
second half, second half, second
From
half.
your perspective, this is where I kind of when I rewatched it, I felt like, I didn't think Fulham were bad per se. I thought they were getting onto loose balls quite a lot. But mainly, I think the main thing was on this, was it 65th minute? I think it was that
Mhm.
the king returned. Yeah,
The
yeah,
Return of the King, man. I've
yeah.
been looking at so many Lord of the Rings memes
Yeah.
recently, and I was just like,
Well, the
now I'm
prince,
watching all the like,
I think he's the prince at the moment. Actually, I think the king is still
it's,
Thierry.
it's, it's still Thierry, it's still
He hasn't
Thierry,
got the
but
crown
he's
just yet, but I'm sure he will very soon. But yeah,
he
so
will, man.
what was it like being in the stadium when he was warming
Dude,
up, and then
dude.
when he came on?
Well, so every single time he got up and he was like, it was almost as if we scored a goal. And then just the anticipation, like the father and son duo who sit next to you, and that little kid who just like swears the whole game.
Oh
I mean,
yeah,
actually, actually comes
love
up with
that
like,
kid, love that kid.
our kid's actual legend. I mean, it's crazy that the free pass his dad gives him, but fair enough. But and he goes to his dad, oh, his dad's asked like, who's warming up there? He goes, are you blind? It's Saka. Can't you tell? And he was like, I can't see it. And he's like, nah, it's Saka. And then just you could hear the ripples of
Yeah,
everybody saying, Saka's coming on, Saka's coming on.
yeah,
And honestly, like people were already on their feet getting gas for him just getting changed. And then yeah, obviously when he's standing there on the side and then his name gets called out and just the place, it was like we had just
well,
scored,
that's what I thought.
and
It sounded
yeah,
like that.
yeah, it
Like,
sounded like it
like
scored and it felt like we
oh,
scored,
yeah,
man.
yeah. But it just shows like
Uh,
what he means to this entire football club. Like
oh yeah,
he's just, like I said, I think he's the only, and I don't get me wrong, I love all of our players. I love them to bits. He's the only guy I get really excited to watch. Like I'm sitting there as a grown ass probably man, and I'm giddy at the thought of watching Bukayo Saka.
and and, and that was, and then, again, you missed that, right? Because as you get older,
Mm.
you have a very different relationship in terms of like, because you've always looked up to footballers, and it's
Yeah,
weird then when you're older than them, and
yeah.
you're like, I don't know how to feel about, but despite that, you're like, yes,
It's,
he
it's like it's
he,
like it's
yeah,
obviously like, I don't want to say like son, because he's only like 7 years younger than me, but
yeah,
it's kind of like my it's like my best friend is playing football, and I just can't wait to see him get back on the pitch, and I'm just so excited for
yeah.
him. I don't even want to say like younger brother or anything like that, because I think it does him a disservice, because he's such a mature individual, and I think he's so good at what he does. To kind of, I don't want to patronize him in any way. It's generally like my best friend is back playing football.
You're just
I'm just
pumped for
there.
him, man.
I'm just a cheerleader, man. I'm just pumped. Like I love him. The love I have for that boy is just, it's not quantifiable. He is everything that I enjoy about Arsenal Football Club, and I'm talking about
Yeah.
even. before he even arrived at Arsenal Football Club. You know, he epitomizes everything good about this football club, and
Yeah.
when he came on, it was just you could just feel the energy change. You know, like I noticed that it's really funny. So he came on and the ball went out to the right back into I think it was Timber, and he just played a ball over the top, right into that area that Saka is.
No one was even paying attention to what was happening.
Yeah,
Like I actually had to ask, like, wait, did we nearly do something? Because everybody's eyes were on Saka
yeah.
just while getting ready
He
for it,
plays
man.
it
It was
over, right?
nuts.
He plays it over, and Saka's first touch on the ball, right? And already immediately Robinson, who's a very good defender, Anthony Robinson,
Mhm.
takes 3 steps back and he's like, I'm not getting tight to this guy because he can tell me in a second. And he gets it down like he's not left, takes it down, drives past him, and I'm like, yeah, he's not lost. He's not lost anything. He's not even lost a yard. Like he is
Nah.
right there, ready, and it's like he never left. And just to see that, I was like, I'm happy, man, because
I think to build on that point is really interesting because also immediately the way the shape of the team and the way that space opens up, particularly for Odegaard, was like immediate and because it was good because he actually it was in the second half as well, so he was actually closer to where your seat is, right? So you could pay a lot of
you
attention
get to
to
see
just
it
how
very closely, isn't it?
yeah, really close up. And then you actually have the benefit of the height as well
Yeah,
because you get also the
it's a
layout of the
tactical view.
pitch.
It's a very good view. Like you don't get that
Yeah, it's a great technical view. Yeah.
view on TV. You know, you get to watch players.
Oh, and even if you were like had a better seat in the ground in theory,
Yeah,
you still wouldn't get the real sense and feeling of how the
yeah.
pitch and stuff
The
is
spacing works.
changing. Yeah, the dynamics of it almost. And the difference is, so Waneri has deputized amazingly for Saka, like an unbelievable that he's what he's been doing at 17, 18, and how he kind of just kept us in it really. But he intuitively occupies more or less the same
Yeah.
space as Odegaard. So you can see even if then and Timber also he's not really an overlapping
No,
right back.
no.
So you have all three of them, and that's been for the most last few weeks,
Yeah,
kind of just trying
yeah.
to mingle in the same space.
You could throw a Dennis over them, right? You could throw.
Yeah, yeah, they're there. They're all there. They're all kind of coalescing in the same space. But as soon as Saka's there, he holds the width.
Yeah,
He's going to come in for sure,
but he.
but his positioning
Yeah,
always he's on the line, and that immediately opens up space for the midfielders to do a hell of a lot more.
yeah,
And I think and beyond obviously then his just sheer efficiency in front of goal, the way the quality of his passing, that cross that he
yeah,
put into like was it Trossard
yeah,
and Martinelli?
yeah.
Again, different class, but it's his intelligence of from a positioning perspective that also makes a massive difference to the way that we play. And yeah, you can tell how much we missed him, just even from the shape of the team.
And then it leads obviously on to kind of like the goal, which is 7 minutes after he comes on, and you know it just feels like we're back, right? It just feels like wow, like nothing's wrong in the world anymore. Like Saka's.
No, honestly, the electricity in the stadium again, like it hadn't really felt it.
That's it.
So for a while, and yeah,
And
it
I
was
think
it was it
a
was a
good thing to
perfect
kind of lead
moment.
us on to is like obviously great goal for Saka to score, but talking more about what we mentioned at the start, really good work from Martinelli, good work from Marino, two players who had very good games in my opinion. Martinelli really picked up a nice, I don't know if you noticed this, like the very nice space centrally when he drove through there.
And again, something that we've been saying a lot more, like we just want him just attack your man
Yeah.
and get into that sort of in between the
But
left back and the
it's a
center
good
half,
point you
right?
made before though, right? Because this is what I was going to mention actually, is that like we're very harsh on Martinelli, and I had a light bulb moment. Obviously, I do know this, but I understand it more and more now because Arteta really wanted the whole width, right? So Martinelli
Hmm.
sometimes probably does want to get into central areas, but he understands that for the team's benefit, he needs to hold the
He
width.
needs to hold
And then
the
obviously,
width, yeah.
naturally, like, that means then he doesn't always do things that he wants to do, that he might feel more effective, but then he's put in an area that is helping the team, right? And I think that's what we have in our squad. We have team of a self. And what I would say is that, like, I think he showed yesterday that when he does occupy more central spaces, he has a much better influence on the game, because he's a very talented footballer, isn't he? And I think we have been a bit harsh on him, but like I said, really good drive into the middle.
And again, it's we mentioned it in an earlier pod, right? It's sort of this whole thing of how do you enable the best out of the players that you have, right? Can you put them in the situations and the positions where you're going to get maximum effect out of
Yeah,
how they play and what they do? And definitely, like he was in that kind of in between their sort of the center mid,
yeah.
the left back, the
The
right
right
back,
back and
sorry,
centre
and
back. Yeah,
Castagna,
yeah, yeah.
and centre back,
Yeah.
and he goes into
And
that
he
gap and
picks
he
that
attacks
right
that
area,
gap.
right? He picks that right area
Exactly.
because some people, the issue that I had, the frustration I have with people who don't play striker, so I have this issue sometimes with Kai Havertz and obviously with Marino, but because they're not strikers, is they will then either be maybe they'll be behind the right back, or like Trossard will be, or they'll be
Exactly.
in
You can't find them,
yeah, or
so
they'll be
that's
kind of like
useless.
in between the centre backs, but in between the centre backs is not a problem, but it is a problem when the right back's not being occupied either. So then so then there's three players kind of stopping you from getting your thing, getting your shot,
Exactly.
getting your action off. So, it worked out really well, and like what a Aaron Ramsey-esque assist from Martinelli, right? What an assist!
Just the Brazilian just oozed from him, man, or and a little bit of Giroud as well.
Yeah, but
But
he's
yeah,
very instinctual, right? Like I think we know this about Martinelli. He's
yeah,
very instinctual. When you don't give him enough
yeah.
to the time to think about it too much, and you let him play off instinct, he plays very, very well, and he does things that players can't predict. The problem is that we find that I think we agree when he becomes when he's not effective is when he's very predictable. You know?
And to your point, right? It's really interesting how I think you and I talking is making our opinions more formed.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, not redundant actually. I think we're just
I mean, my opinion before redundant about him, but I know what you mean. It's forming a understanding of what we're talking about, right?
yeah, isn't we're actually really thinking about it. And yeah, you're right. There's something because of what he has to do, which is hold the width, and make the pitch bigger. He's forced to do that sort of on his right foot, that kind of and he's very right-footed. And he's trying to take on the right back, and the right back's like, well, I'm just going to show you left. I'm sorry, I'm gonna
Yeah,
show you, I'm gonna
down
show
line.
you, yeah, exactly, I'm gonna show you down the line,
And
and
then you
you're
ain't
gonna
got a
try and
line.
you ain't got a line, so you're gonna try and cut in,
Yeah.
and I know exactly what you're gonna do, and the centre back's gonna come in at that point,
Yeah,
or the
but,
or the
but,
or
but,
the
it's like
centre
even,
midfielder.
but he does this thing really well where he'll take it to the byline and he'll get across off of the left. But because we don't have a striker who occupies those spaces, the centre backs
Then what?
they're like,
Then
yeah, they're like, it's okay, you can cross it because if Kai Havertz ain't playing and Marino isn't playing in those areas and they don't really offer it and they're not box dominators. They're not
no,
box
they're not.
dominators. They're not Ollie Watkins. They're not Gyökeres. They're not Isak. They're not even Sesko, for example, right? They're not
Yeah.
Haalands. They're not,
Just sit on the 6 yard.
yeah,
They know if you like, even what like Ian Wright used to do.
yeah,
You're just going to be in the 6 yard
that
box.
box.
And the ball's going to wherever it
Will find
ricochets,
you.
you're
And
there.
this is
Yes.
and this is why, like again, and it's interesting because we're moving on to kind of thinking about maybe like Real Madrid, which I think we can maybe do a preview pod for it actually to talk about in depth.
Yeah, we definitely
But
should.
this is the one thing that I'm also worried about because Jude Bellingham does it very well. He picks up areas in the box because he's instinctual and he understands. I don't need to know exactly where it's going to go, but one, I know I need to be here because I've got faster reaction time than most people around it. If it falls to me, I'm going to make myself known and I'm going to get myself a goal. And that is sometimes it's just being there. And even just standing still. Like one of the things people don't understand about football is sometimes standing still is the best thing you can do. He'll
Yeah,
get in the
definitely.
area or he'll kind of draw up to the area and just wait. Because everyone else is panicking about how to get rid of it. And he'll just take a deep breath. And that's what the best strikers do. Everyone else is panicking like, oh God, ball watching. What's the person on the wing going to do? Where's the ball going to go? Where's the ball going to go? They're like, it's fine. It's going to come here. And most likely four times out of 10, maybe 3 times out of 10, it will
It's
land
going to
in
drop in
this
front of my
area
feet. Yeah.
and or just near me, and I can get my body in the way. I can do something. I can do it, and that's the thing. I think the problem with
But what he did really well though, and I think for the first time in ages, is that actually he was doing the sort of jinking the ball on his right foot,
yeah,
and then he was taking on Castagna,
yeah,
and he did put it through his legs, put him on his arse. It was amazing, hilarious.
yeah,
And then the pullback that he managed also when he took it to the byline and then pulled it back for Odegaard,
yeah,
a player who again you could see his confidence is still on the floor.
yeah.
Like
This is the thing. I find it
you've
like
got to be hitting that on target. But
there's not much more to say about Odegaard because
no, there isn't. I don't want to labor on it, but
he's
yeah,
putting
it's
the
just
same
more like
performance in every week, right? Which is that
yeah,
he's showing out for his national team, in those absolutely garbage friendlies that he plays, or like qualifiers that he's playing. But to be fair, congratulations, my friend, because I think they qualified for the was it the World Cup now? They've qualified or the
Did they actually qualify in the end?
Euros,
Okay,
something
that's
like that?
huge for them. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
which is fantastic. Congratulations, my friend. Yeah, I think there's just not much more to say. I think, when he picks up form again, we can have a bit more of a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. But anyway, he got there and he put the ball in, and
Yeah,
then a few times he put the ball in dangerous areas.
yeah.
And then for the assist for Saka, again, he in fact was he made the dangerous situation
Yeah.
happen. He got himself then to just be in the right place at the right time to throw off the goalkeeper, to throw off the centre halves, and just gave it on
Occupy
a
them,
platter
and he's
for Saka.
occupying,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, get
occupying those centre backs.
100%. Yeah.
He's attacking the back lines, occupying the back line. He's stressing them out, and it means that other people are then going to pick up on the scraps when you're doing that. Again, the problem for us, I think, is that we fail to occupy the back line, and I think Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast, who I do want to mention actually just before we end, because they're doing a really amazing thing with their fundraiser at the moment for the Zadary
Yes,
cap.
yeah,
I will mention
yeah.
that for anyone listening after. He does mention about how, if we're not attacking the back line, then what are we doing in it? And I agree, like, we don't stress the back lines out enough. And I think now looking at it, like, so funny because from last week we were talking about a player that we might think about selling, right? From a performance
Mhm.
like that, you can start thinking about, well, actually, if we do, and again, the story came out today, that Andre Bertez had a conversation with Nico Williams' camp today, or in the recent days, for example, and that's hopefully going to progress nicely and well. Nico Williams maybe on the left wing, we see an option for Martinelli to play more centrally now and be occupying that space and do the
Could
thing
be.
that, for
Yeah, could
example,
be.
Trossard has done for us in the past couple of years, where he's played like a second striker to maybe, like, for example,
Yeah.
Havertz in that area, maybe, or the new striker hopefully that we're going to sign, because there's some links to Gyökeres there as well. So it just means that he's showing that actually, you know what, maybe I might not have had the best season, but don't put me in a box. Don't tell me that the only thing I can do is sit on that wing and do that, because I'm doing it by instruction. Wait till I get in positions where actually I can have a bit more freedom, and you'll see exactly what I can do, because that's what happened.
Yeah, man.
So I think
Don't put baby in a corner, right?
that's it, man.
So that's
Testament
it,
to
man.
Martinelli, fantastic performance. Really, really happy for him. I think he actually has been really, really quite good actually since Saka's been out. I think he's done really well since he's come back. And just credit to him, man. I think fantastic performance, and just claps all around,
And,
really.
and then yeah, and then he's put it on the plate for Saka. Saka has his moment, and I mean it's a fairy tale. And then even the stadium announcer when he's shouts. At first I wasn't too sure about this whole saying their name first name and then everybody saying their last name,
Yeah,
and they kind of repeat it again.
it
But
works with that.
in the But in that moment, and then he starts singing at the end, Bukayo, and
Yeah, man.
everybody
It
lost
worked.
it. Just
The vibes were immaculate. So I think that was a
yeah,
really
it was.
nice
It was.
way to kind of come on.
Yeah, just bring him back,
Yeah,
bring him back. And I mean, and then yeah, like you mentioned a little bit earlier, it's the end of the game. Declan Rice said it in his interview. They were sloppy. They were a bit naive in sort of the way in which they were allowing Fulham to kind of get back into the game. Letting Willian and Iwobi kind of run at the defense a little bit
Arteta
and
looked quite
stuff like
frustrated,
that.
didn't he? Most of the game, you could tell he was quite frustrated with the shape of the team, and
Muniz should have scored. Should have
yeah,
scored from practically from his
yeah.
first
Before
touch.
that, you really a fucking good chance that was.
A crazy chance. Like you got to score it, and that would have been at a significantly earlier point in the
Yeah,
game as well, and that would have.
but it's kind of nice, right? It's kind of nice for once the teams don't fucking score every chance against us, right? So I think Fulham used up enough of their luck against us recently. So sorry.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess. Yeah, we do feel like teams are hyper efficient against us,
Yeah, so it all
which
balances
is
out, and I think this is the thing. I think sometimes we
in the
fail to
end.
recognize that in those games we over-index how annoying it is that the team scored their first chances. But in games like this, sometimes we fail to recognize actually the team could have scored two or three, and we got away with it. Like there was the Smith Rowe one where it fell to him. Luckily, we got it out. There was the
Yes,
Traore one where he just didn't square it to Jimenez for some reason
hilarious,
because I don't
hilarious.
know what that guy's doing. I don't know
It
what goes on in
was
that guy's brain.
crazy.
And then you've got the Muniz one, right? And I saw the XG, and the XG was low. But again, this is why I don't
Very low.
respect XG as a stat. I'm not a fan of it because
It's more the quality of the chance,
yeah,
right? Like well, I think XG sort of takes that into consideration, but I
a
don't
little bit. But,
understand
but
really
again, I saw the
because
XG.
it wasn't on target,
Yeah,
so it doesn't factor that
I
in. But
saw
you're
the
like,
XG being less than one, and I'm like, well, actually, the guy should square it to him in, and it's a tap in. So what are you talking about? Like that's
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
It's a quality chance, and the same principle with the Muniz, the first effort that he missed,
yeah,
and then the goal that we concede is very much a sort of goal that again, it was a bit of deflection.
Mm.
You know, Raya kind of wrong-footed on it, and but fortunately, and then again, you earn the right to concede those sorts of
Yeah,
goals
yeah,
because you've systematically more or less just cruised the whole game.
yeah. And you scored.
You scored two goals. You've given yourself the buffer, and they scored in the 93rd minute or whatever. You know, you're going to make it almost impossible for them to be able to do anything
Yeah, it's
special. So
upsetting. It's upsetting just to, but as a defense, I'm sure they're frustrated, but it is what it is. You know, we've got the win, we move on, and we look ahead to Saturday.
Everton, yeah, Everton away, and it's not going to be an easy game. I think we should.
We
Again,
always
Moyes
struggle
has
there.
come in.
We always struggle there. I mean, everyone's
I struggle.
everyone.
I never look forward to
Yeah,
a game away at Goodison Park. I have like flashbacks even from like the Invincible days and stuff like this,
yeah.
where it was just a grind, and they're gonna be up for it. They'll be up for it again. It's a yeah, I
Last
don't
one.
know.
But hopefully they beat Liverpool today, and they're like, you know what? We'll just lie down for
We're
Arsenal.
done now. Yeah, yeah, that's it. We're on the
Lie down
beach,
for
man.
Arsenal
We're
so
on the
they can
beach.
try and pip
Yeah,
Liverpool to the league, so we can do that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, yeah,
And it could
that's
be
very true.
winners, man. It could be 6 point. It could be a 6 point gap on Saturday 3 p.m. So
There you go. There you go. Keep the toxic beliefs alive, my friend. Keep it up, man. Yeah, no, look, they're going to be a very difficult side to play against. They've always sort of since Daesh and even before then, they've had a pretty solid-ish defense. And Moyes has inherited, let's say, the likes of Tarkowski and
that's it.
Michael Keane and things being really solid.
Be good
Um,
from set
uh,
pieces, and obviously, like you've got
and then very dangerous.
Gabriel.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So, it's good at. I mean, we're going to need Kivior at his best. Funnily enough, just going to say this. When we were talking about Kivior
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
generally
Yeah.
he's actually going to have the opportunity to play at left centre half.
Yeah,
So,
so this is interesting, right? Just a quick point,
yeah,
because I think we're going to wrap it up in a few minutes, right? But this is a
yeah.
quick point I want to make. So, okay, he wasn't great yesterday when he came on, right? He had a few shaky moments, right? And he's getting a lot of criticism and flack online. And I do understand why, because obviously, there's been the Bournemouth game, but a couple of other games, the Liverpool game, and now this game where he's kind of not been there. But my point being,
He
the
hasn't
same as yeah,
played.
that's it. My point is the same thing I said.
Played.
You throw him into game states, right? In random times where he's not up to the speed of the game, and you expect him to be up to the speed of the game in a way that we play, and it's tough, man.
He's
Every
had
single
14 games consecutively used as an unused
That's it.
substitute.
That's it.
So like you can't.
I like him. I think actually he's a better passer than Gabriel from that left hand side. I think he hits those channels very well. I think he moves across the ground well. I think he just sometimes, and again, Clive. I was listening to kind of Clive's an analysis of the game, and he's right when he says sometimes he lets the situation deal with him instead of dealing with the situation.
It's a really good way of
Yeah, and,
describing it.
it's
Yeah,
true.
yeah.
It's very, very, very great analogy and a great way of describing him because it's true. Because he doesn't make a decision quick enough. But again, in my opinion, that is just sharpness. It's just match sharpness. I think if you give the guy 5, 10 games run, because when he was playing left back for us in that run, I think he was fine. I think he was fantastic. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna hold off the criticism of Kiwior because I don't think it's fair. I think he's gonna have his chance, like you said, and then we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that a full 90 minutes against away at Everton, there's nothing more, very few games will put hair on your chest like that. And hopefully it will bring him up to speed ahead of, and we're assuming that Gabriel's not going to be fit for the Real Madrid game
No, I
anyway.
mean,
Like
at
that's
the
just
best case scenario is 21 days. Usually, it's 3 weeks, right? So he's not going to make that thing, which is a real sickening.
not a massive kick in the teeth because we know that we needed that the it needed to be the best defensive performance of our lives, and therefore we wanted the best defensive
Yeah,
partnership
and,
in
and they're
probably
vulnerable,
world football available
and they're
for it.
and they're vulnerable
Um,
from set pieces, and he is
he's so dangerous off of them.
he's the biggest threat from set pieces in the world.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
he's a lethal weapon,
But
man.
it
So
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, man, because you know what? We will figure a way to still perform at the level we need to, and I think that will be. I think we'll be fine. Do I think people keep asking me like again about the game like oh you're not going to go through it from whatever. I'm like listen man, I don't understand why you have this concept of like that teams can't just beat any team on their given day. We're not shit, yeah. We're a very very good fucking football team. It's not like when Minnows playing against fucking like
mm.
the fucking Space Jam monsters. This is a that can be beat. Yeah, I mean like they conceded fucking 4 goals to Sociedad yesterday. Yeah,
Yeah, they did.
also
Yeah,
three goals.
yeah.
Sorry, 3 goals to Sociedad
Three
yesterday.
goals,
Yeah.
Sociedad. Yeah.
And they ship goals constantly. Liverpool, absolutely dominated them when they played them at Anfield. So listen, I'm not scared of them. Yeah, let's go. Let's have them. Let's go for it. And regardless, we've got a good defense there. Let's just hope White's available. Let's hope that Timber's available. Let's hope that Saliba's available and Skelly's available. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that
Yeah.
defense. Yeah.
And and this is the point, right? You need your team to where you do have shortfalls, you need the rest of the team to plug those gaps. So,
Mm.
like you need Partey, you need Rice to cover up some of the gaps in midfield where, Kivior might be attacked,
Yeah.
sort of one
You
on one
just
and things like this. And yeah, you adjust and you can't just don't be
and
naive,
they don't really.
you know?
I think is they don't really play like the thing is Mbappe is electric, right? But they don't really play a central center point who drives in the middle of your defense like that. Mbappe tends to kind of move over towards the Vinicius side, over to the left hand side, and that channel
Yeah,
where Saliba is going to be, right? Obviously, he might think, okay, well, Kivior is a mismatch, let me go on that side. But he's doing something a bit less natural to him, which means that
that's
then
true.
we can work from that. I prefer that. You got Saliba's getting more of the ball. You're letting Saliba play. Wherever there's an adjustment from their team, there's going to be a benefit and adjustment that we can make from our side as well. So and also I don't expect us to fucking leave bounds and bounds of space behind our defense anyway. We're not
No, no.
stupid. Like I hope anyway. We're not stupid.
Yeah.
So we're gonna be set in our shape. We're gonna defend well.
It's a bit difficult, yeah, difficult
Yeah.
to break
And
down,
every
right?
single
Well,
player on that day is gonna be on their top game because they know they have to be. So
and I think, yeah, and so the to just we've already started previewing Real
I
Madrid
know,
because we
yeah,
can't help but think about it.
I know.
But yeah, I on the Everton front, then you gotta come out of that game
That's
unscathed.
Kate. Yeah, no injuries,
Uh,
please.
Please, no injuries. Ideally, you don't want to get into also like a bloodied nose or whatever. In an ideal situation, you go there, you get an early goal, you keep the crowd quiet,
That's it.
and you manage the game. And I think Arsenal away from home has been for the last 2, 3 seasons, have been really good at doing that.
Yeah,
But like you say, it can always be a bit of a struggle. They can always just sort of lamp the ball into the box, into the mixer, and they get a
yeah,
goal, and Goodison Park gets up. And you just don't want a game like that that sort
yeah.
of like kind
And
of
and
pulls you
also
apart emotionally.
and also
But
you've got players there who have the Real Madrid game in the back of their mind, right? They know Tuesday we're
exactly.
there. So I think I don't expect us to win because I think that they're going to have that in the back of their mind, and I think that
Okay.
it's going to be a difficult game. I think we'll probably get a draw in that game. I'm gonna predict we're going to come out of that with a 0-0 draw. I think,
Oh,
yeah, I think it'll be a 0-0. But again, it's just what it is. You can't.
how would you set up for the game then?
I
Who
would.
would what would you ideally do?
So personally, again, I'm not starting Saka. I'm not starting him because I don't think he's ready to start.
Okay.
I think probably I might give him 45 minutes maybe now because I can be a game half an hour against the game 45 minutes, just building him up to then maybe starting against Real Madrid and then coming off maybe after about 60 minutes. I would probably start Trossard. I think I'll start Trossard because Trossard does quite well at Goodison Park. I think he's done well there. Marino has to start because there's no one else. I wouldn't start Martinelli. I think I'd probably just give him a bit of a rest. I think get him fresh for Tuesday because we're gonna need him because I think he thrives in the biggest games. I think he really does. I think I'm going. I'd maybe go Jorginho instead of Party because I think if Party is quite an important player for us at the moment. The way we play, Declan Rice plays every game, so I play him. Odegaard plays every game, so I play him. Skelly has to play because no one else can. Kiwior, Saliba, just because you don't want to you want to get them some experience playing together before you chuck him in against Real Madrid, and then probably Ben White if he's fit, because you want to get him some minutes before he maybe has to play on them because I think I'd really like to see Ben White and centre back with Saliba actually on the right hand side because Saliba's got experience playing left centre back for France now. So
Yeah, he does. I just don't. I really don't think Ben White. He just hasn't played enough football.
he hasn't,
And
but then he
and
wasn't against Liverpool. He was not, he hadn't played a lot of football either, and I think he was.
no, that
He was
that's
very,
true. But I think considering he's just had another setback, I think they're gonna have to be really careful with him. But
he said,
yeah,
he said
I
he said it was a setback, but I actually think that wasn't it to do with his maybe it's to do with maybe I'm wrong. I thought his wife was giving birth.
so he did.
He
Arteta
said he
didn't
said the
say
knee
that.
thing. I think he said the knee thing, but I don't know if he's just saying that because he didn't want to kind of be like, oh, like Ben that's personal.
So I said to Pete, shout out Pete.
So
I said to Pete, he was like, oh, what's happened to Ben White? And I said, my initial hunch, because clearly Ben White Kai Havertz and Martin Odegaard, all their misses are all best mates,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, we're all just going to pop
Was it?
out
Yeah,
kids at
pregnant
the
straight
same
away. Yeah.
time, and they all did, and like, you know what, fair play to on the timing, and clearly that worked out for them. But so that was my hunch, was that I thought, okay, maybe his wife was giving birth or something, but eh. Anyway, I still probably think if Timber is fit, you most likely you will maybe see him still start. Um, and I think even for the Madrid game, you're more likely to see Kivior and Saliba probably start as a result of it. But yeah, I've got no complaints with your starting lineup. I think a few changes is a good thing. I think keep resting key players and making sure that they're super fresh and on it for Tuesday is the right approach.
Yeah, because it's gonna
And
be her.
we still should have enough to beat them. Or at least, yeah, as you say, just come away from there with a result.
Yeah.
So
Can't,
yeah,
yeah,
let's see.
we'll see.
Let's see. Let's
And
see.
yeah, we'll definitely do we'll do a pod on maybe Saturday after the game or maybe Sunday, and then we can do a good
That's it.
preview for Madrid because I will be flying to Houston on that day.
Oh yeah, so we definitely need to. Well, yeah, we'll call it a post Everton game, pre
Preview.
Madrid game. Yeah, exactly. Preview games, preview pod. So
Cool, man.
yeah, man. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Been good.
Yeah, it looks like I've been. I forgot to turn the light on, so I look
That's
like a bit
right.
of a
Don't
ghost.
worry.
But that's all right. But yeah, nice one. Good talking to you.
Yep.
Up the Arsenal.
That's it.
Big
The Arsenal.
game on Saturday,
Yeah.
and no injuries.
No injuries, hopefully, to the injury gods, please. No more injuries. I've had enough
Mm,
personal and Arsenal injuries for a lifetime. Thank you. So
that's it. No thanks.
thanks so
All
much.
right, man.
Take care, man.
Take care, dude. Chat soon.
See you next time. Bye bye.